Hey guys! So today I'm going to be teaching you guys about alternative dispute resolution, which is also known as ADR, which is what exactly? ADR in simple terms is just an alternative to court. In a more explained form, it is just methods to resolve dispute that are inexpensive, relatively quick, and leave more control to the parties involved. So why would you need to go with ADR to resolve a dispute instead of going to court? Well, court is extremely expensive, time-consuming, and you lose your power. No one likes that. And some cases in which you can go towards ADR as your form of resolution is such as divorce, domestic law issues, business against employee, business against consumer, and just business against business, or pretty much any type of conflict involved, you can use one of these methods. There are three main methods, which are arbitration, which is the most formal, mediation, which is kind of semi-formal, it's in the middle there, it hits the spot. In my opinion, I think mediation is the best one, and negotiation, which is extremely informal, pretty much, So let's start with the most formal, arbitration. Arbitration is pretty much a case in which they settle a dispute by having a different kind of third party, which is also known as an arbitrator. And the arbitrator renders legally binding decision, and pretty much they're the ones that decide what the end goal is. They're the ones that decide who's right and who's wrong. This is the only one of the three in which it's not a win-win scenario, which is very unfortunate because everyone likes to win. Pretty much it's just how it goes is you meet with the arbitrator, both parties meet with the arbitrator, and you guys both share your arguments and your evidence, and the arbitrator will use that as well to pretty much decide who's right and who's wrong. Sometimes they may even not acknowledge some of the stuff that you say, so it is the most similar to court. And sometimes may even go and get stuff confirmed by judges, and overall it is the most similar to court, and it is probably a little more on the money side as opposed to, let's say, negotiation, which is extremely cheap. An example of alternative dispute resolution is divorce. A messy divorce, when there's a child involved, and let's say the mom moves away and the child is left without the presence of its father. So the father goes and tries to see the child, but the mom tells the dad, no, she doesn't want to see you. And the dad's like, I don't believe you. You don't want me to see her. And they get into this whole messy squabble, and they'll go to an arbitrator to be able and fight for custody instead of going to court, which can take months on end, and it's so much more messy than it needs to be, especially for a young child. So it is definitely a better alternative, and sometimes it is not always fair, but thankfully there's an Arbitration Fairness Act of 2009. It has not been passed into law yet, but it is in effect in a sense. It allows it to be more fair than it used to be. Next up, we have mediation. Mediation involves a mediator. Divorces can also go and take this route. It is also a great route to take. It's semi-formal. It's, not as conflicting. They will find more of a balance. So pretty much it is where the mediator will talk face to face with both parties, but in separate rooms. And the mediator will overall try to find some common ground. And pretty much it is a method in which both parties still maintain their power and don't hand it over to the third party like in arbitration, but it does rely on this neutral mediator who is there to ensure that they reach an agreement. It is inexpensive, it's fast, and it's confidential, which is always great. We don't want anyone to dig into our life and find this. And although it may not be binding, like legally binding, there's still a chance to create a legal contract for things such as divorce. Another example is simply when there's a conflict between a boss and an employee because the employee shows up late to work quite often and the boss doesn't like it anymore. They'll go to a mediator and they'll mediate it out and they'll try to come up with a solution. And that's a great strategy. Lastly is negotiation. Negotiation is the most informal one. It's pretty much just an informal discussion between two parties, and sometimes there aren't any attorneys, where they will talk about their differences with the goal of meeting common ground. It's a meeting of the minds, to say it that way. So pretty much they just come up with a solution, and it's a win-win scenario. Also similar to mediation, where it's also usually a win-win scenario, and it's overall just fast, convenient, and easy to solve. And an example of this one is if you have a job that makes you travel a lot but they don't pay you much, you can either tell them, pay me more to travel, or I don't travel as much. So yeah, that is pretty much it. I hope you learned something, and comment down below if you have any questions. Thank you.